Everyone, Alex here for Bright Dog Academy. If you'd like me to personally answer any questions you may have about your dog, be sure to head over to brightdog.com where you can learn about my online training program, plus pick up a copy of the official Bright Dog Academy ebook.
Using treats or food for training. Now, this is a very important topic, and there are some big misconceptions about using food with training your dog and using treats with training your dog. So I want to go over, number one, why I'm such a big fan of using food with training dogs, and also the proper way to do it. So one of the things that I often hear from people, or a question that I get asked, that people have read or been told by other trainers, is that you shouldn't use food because all you're doing is bribing your dog, and that if you use food, your dog will never listen to you unless you have food. Now, this can be true if you use food the wrong way. The correct way to use treats and to use food, it's not as a bribe, it's as a reward. And there's a difference, okay? Bribing is not the same as rewarding your dog. Bribing them is showing them the food before you ask them to do something, before you get them to do something. And rewarding the behavior is giving them the treat after they've already listened to you. So if you go about teaching dogs whatever it is you're trying to teach them the correct way, we don't ever bribe the dog to do something. We simply reward the dog. And if you think about it, food is the absolute highest level of reward there is. There is nothing else more important to a dog than food. Without food, they die. It's the highest resource, and they know that. So taking advantage of the fact that there's already this high level reward, why wouldn't we want to use it? Now, here is where people can sometimes get confused, all right? Because when we start teaching commands, sit, down, stay, come, focus, all those commands, we start off by using food to lure the dog. And this is where it can get kind of, the lines blur between, well, are you bribing them or are you luring them? Well, we're luring them. We're not bribing the dog. We're using the food lure to get the dog into the position we want. And eventually, the lure goes away. Because if you train your dog correctly and you wean the treat away, we go from luring the dog to simply rewarding the dog using the food. In a very beginning stage, we use food to get the dog into the sit position. And then by step 3, step 4, the dog is sitting just because we're saying it with our voice, just because we're giving them the hand signal. And then we are rewarding them afterwards with food, and eventually you don't even need to use food as the reward. You can simply pet them, your attention, whatever the activity is that they want to do becomes the reward. But in the beginning stages, food and using treats in training is the absolute fastest way to get a dog to learn, to train a dog. To give you an example as I guess humans, let's say that I was to give you money. That every single time you do something right, I'm going to give you a check for $1,000. Every time I ask you to do something and you do it correctly, and it could be the simplest thing in the world, I'm going to give you a $1,000 check. I'm going to ask you, give me a glass of water. And if you give me a glass of water, good job, here's a check for $1,000. And you would be ecstatic. You go, man, that was great. That was easy. What else can I do? What else can I do to get that $1,000? All right? And it's the same thing with dogs. We use food, which is the highest value, the highest reward you could give them. So if you tell your dog to sit, and he sits, and he gets something really good, he gets that reward, he's going to go, in his mind, okay, well, what else do I need to do to get another reward? Right? So using food, using treats, we do it the right way. Once your dog gets to a certain level, remember, all the commands, we do it in steps. Your dog doesn't go from not knowing stay to staying, for 20 minutes overnight. There's a progression. In the beginning, yeah, we use food to lure them, to get them in the position we want. But eventually, we wean the food away, and your dog now listens just because of, the command or the hand signal, the vocal command word or the hand signal, not because you're luring them, okay? Not because you're bribing them. So keep that in mind, that if you've read that once you start training your dog with food, they'll always have to have food, you'll always have to use treats to train them, that's not true, okay? It's about the way you use food, and more importantly, how you wean the food away. Because if you don't wean the food away the proper way, then and if you use food the wrong way, then you turn them to bribing your dog, and they'll only listen when you have food and you show it to them first. We want our dog to be working because they know that they're going to get a reward, and that's the difference. Bribing is giving them the food before they do whatever the behavior is. Rewarding them is giving them a reward, or food or treat, whatever it is, after the behavior, which then is going to increase the frequency that they do that behavior again the next time we ask, because the last time they did it, they got something really good, okay? One more thing with food and treats, we want to make sure that the treats that we give our dogs are very small. Now, you could be using whatever kind of treats you want, dog treats, you could use human food, things like chicken, hot dogs, cheese, doesn't matter, whatever you want to use, whatever your dog likes, but we want to keep them small. When you give your dog a reward or a treat, it's not the size of the treat to your dog, it's just the fact that they got it. So if you're using hot dogs, for example, I would take a hot dog and slice it down the middle, and then take those two halves and slice those down the middle, and then dice them up going sideways. That's how small pieces you should have. You know, the size of a dime, like a coin, a dime, for even a 100-pound dog. That's enough. So keep that in mind when you're using food, when we are using treats for training. It's not about the size of the reward or the treat, it's just the fact that they got it in the first place, okay? So that should give you guys a little bit more information about using treats and using treats the correct way with training your dog.